Milton Campis. What a fascinating, I want to say young man, but he's only a few years younger than I am. But jiu-jitsu, I just started learning jiu-jitsu, and I've got lots of questions. It makes me so uncomfortable that it's attractive. The discipline involved, the humility that's involved. Well, Milton is now 9 years in. He's brown belt, I believe. And he has a great podcast, Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. And he's been doing it for a couple years. He just talks all about jiu-jitsu and what it means to him and how it changed his life. He was working hard at it. He's a Long Island guy. I'm very familiar. All my cousins are from Long Island, and he was working hard in jiu-jitsu and had a heart attack. It just kind of affected him, and had to get 2 surgeries, one right away, one the next day. And before that, he had moved down to Florida, where he practices all the time. He has a marketing company as well. Fascinating man. And we talk a lot about jiu-jitsu and what it means to him. And is it right for everybody? And how do you find a great instructor? How do you find a great academy? These are all questions that I have, that I hope you do as well. But jiu-jitsu is, I think it's for everyone. I think it could really benefit everyone. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic. I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Yeah, Milton Campis, thanks so much for your time. How has jiu-jitsu changed your life?
Oh boy. In so many ways. I mean, I've been training, this June will be 9 years. It's such a huge part of my life. It's my workout. It's my stress relief and release, however you like to say it. I always tell my wife, if you want to argue with me or we've got a problem, talk to me right after jiu-jitsu. I come back feeling just like everything from the day, all the stress of the day is gone, and I'm truly in a place where I can just really concentrate on what she wants to talk about. So I've also, I actually had a heart attack 6 years ago. It wasn't because of the jiu-jitsu, probably just the way that I took care of my body when I was younger. Actually had a heart attack right after training, 2 heart attacks after training on Friday and Saturday mornings. And, it just put me in a different mindset. I started to take training a little bit more seriously and really started to to really dedicate myself to getting really back. I thought I was in shape. I obviously was not in shape. And I've done everything that I can to really train as often as possible.
Yeah, one of your quotes that you had that I liked, that you said that jiu-jitsu has a way of weeding out the assholes.
Yeah, I know I put that somewhere. Yeah, definitely. You can't go into an academy or a gym. We call it an academy. Some people might call it a dojo. You can't go into a jiu-jitsu academy and be an a-hole. You can't go into a place and just think you're going to go in there and beat people up. You get exposed pretty quickly. we train side by side with women. So an asshole that comes in thinking he's going to be rolling around on top of girls. Well, when that girl's choking him out, he's not even thinking about, kind of the dirty thoughts. So it weeds people out like that. People that are there for the wrong reasons, they are quickly exposed, and they don't last very long in any academy.
So I've begun my jujitsu journey. So I'm about 10 classes
All
in.
right.
I'm 54 years old. I'm older than you, and what attracts me to it is how uncomfortable it makes me. I've never done anything like this
Mm-hmm.
before. I've played soccer all my life. I play golf now. I play tennis. I do these kinds of things, CrossFit and triathlons, but I've never kind of rolled around with people before, and everybody who I know does it. You could just see a change in them. You could just see the change. And I'm not
Yeah.
there yet. I can't say I have a love for it, but I love the idea of how disciplined it is. Now, what you just said, Sarge, the our master there, he just any ego is just you leave it off that mat. It's just there's no room for it because, like you said, there's
Yeah.
women and there's like, there's I'm 220 pounds. I'm almost 6 feet, and there's 140-pound young men that just can put me in a chokehold in seconds. So it's very humbling.
The
Yeah,
beauty of
very
jujitsu.
humbling.
Yeah. So let me address one of the things you said there in the beginning. It's like, you
Yeah.
talked about feeling uncomfortable. You will start to find comfort in that
Mm.
uncomfortable or in those uncomfortable moments. I'll like last night. I'm down from 247 to
Nice.
232 as of this morning. I've been up and down in my life. I'm trying to focus on losing a little bit of weight, specifically, really. I mean, not only for health reasons, but to really be better at jujitsu. The lighter I am, the faster I can move. But finding comfort in those uncomfortable positions is what everybody has to do. Last night we did some drilling where we actually, our partner laid down on the floor. We went chest to chest, knees off the floor. You're up on your toes, hands behind our back, and he's got to get out from underneath me, and we're
Wow.
only touching chest to chest. He can use his arms, but we're just touching chest to chest. Now, for the lighter guys, they're able to move. It's part of the drill. You're moving them off, do something,
Mm.
shrimping and trying to regain the guard. Well, I was working with a partner that was 160 pounds. It was very difficult for him to get me off of him. But at brown belt level, even if it was somebody my size, I'm very comfortable in staying on top and learning how to stay on top. For him, he had to find comfort in
Mm.
those uncomfortable positions. Luckily for him, I'm the type of partner who will kind of coach him through a little bit or tell him, hey, look, do this. Or I put one knee down a few times just to take some
Mm.
of the weight off of him so that he could get the practice in. So um, who you train with is super important. Feeling like you can roll with certain people or not. I would guess at 220, you said you're 220, you're probably one of the bigger guys in the room most of the time, if not all of the
It
time.
varies.
Is
I'm
that
the
right?
oldest, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'm one of the oldest. There's a 53-year-old. I'm
Mm.
49, be 50 in June. Um, we, you're going to. Funny enough, when I usually don't ask
Mm.
anybody to partner with me. I sit and I
Mm.
let people come to me. They a lot of times the little guys, they're obviously going to try to find somebody their size, and that makes sense. But sometimes the big, even my size or bigger, the bigger white belts and lower belts, they know I'm experienced. I'm a big guy and I'm experienced. They don't want to necessarily roll with me or even practice with me.
Why?
I'm not smelly. I shower before the before the gym. My gi's always clean. It's because of my size and my experience. We Our coach had a conversation with us last night though, and I just sat there and I was like, I'm glad he's saying this. You're not there to win practice, right? When we start rolling and people start going a little crazy, especially we have a lot of white belts in our classes now. They start going really crazy, and that's when somebody gets hurt. But the coach addressed, he says, "Hey guys, you're here to learn jujitsu." And he started to talk about a meme that he saw, and he looked at me because he knew I think I had posted the meme that said, "Stop
Mm.
trying to win practice. That's not what you're there for." And if you're rolling with somebody that's going a little crazy, it's okay for you to tell them, "Hey, maybe we should slow it down a little bit." Doesn't always work. Again, sometimes you have an ego in there, especially at
Mm.
white belt. But being comfortable in having those conversations and letting people know, hey, listen, this is the way I want to train is an okay thing. If you're not in a gym that it's okay to say that,
Yeah.
might be the wrong gym. Or old school gyms are like that. It's just like, get on the mat. I don't care. Grab a girl, grab a guy, grab a kid. It doesn't matter. Let's train. After 9 years, I'm very comfortable with telling somebody, listen, I'm not interested in rolling with you right now. I might not say it like that, but somebody that might be competing that weekend and is looking for some really heavy competition rolls. I'll be like, yeah, you probably want to train with the guys over there.
Mm.
I have to go to work in the morning. I have a family to take care of. I have a business to run. So, it's different for everybody, but yeah, stick it out. You said you haven't found the love for it yet. I think that comes. A lot of us, we fall in love immediately. Some people, it takes a little bit longer. Once they start to feel, start winning a little bit more and start feeling more comfortable in their own skin on the mat, it comes. But stick it out. It'll
Yeah,
happen.
I definitely agree with that. I'm afraid of two things. One, hurting somebody, and two, hurting myself. If it
Mhm.
starts affecting my golf game, Milton, there's going to be trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it
Yeah.
definitely will affect your golf game. There lots of things are going to hurt. I'm not sure. How long
Oh,
did
I've
you say
probably
you were
had
training
10,
now
10,
for?
12 lessons. Yeah.
10
Yeah.
months, yeah, a little under a year. Something's always hurting. It's funny enough. I'm not actually being serious, but when I say that,
Yeah.
it will affect your golf game. Something's always hurting. Especially at our age, we don't bounce back as quickly. Recovery. I have every
Mm.
recovery device under the sun, especially for my back. Things for my back. I stretched and used my recovery devices for about an hour and a half yesterday
Wow.
because my back was bothering me and I was off the mat for about a week. I spent about an hour and a half stretching and using those devices. Now that's just good practice because it's going to help me with my jiu-jitsu even when I'm not injured. But again, my back was really tight and I used all those recovery devices. But that's definitely something that, as white belts, maybe because you're a little bit older, you'll be in that circle of
Mhm.
guys who will talk about it. But in the beginning, nobody's telling you that. Like stretch after practice on the mat before you leave, before you grab your bag, stretch a little bit, just a little. Some of the same things you do to warm up, do some of those same stretches, light stretching. I have massage guns. I have something called the So Right. I have the chirp wheel. I've got foam rollers. I use all that stuff, and if I train, I take a cold shower after training. It's my version of doing like an ice. It's not the same, but doing an ice bath, right? People do ice bath for a reason. It helps with inflammation. So I take a cold shower. It's usually a cold shower, and then I'll come stretch if I can get home right away. A little stretching at the gym, come home, cold shower, and then I just sit in front of the couch, throw on the TV with the wife, and I'm
Mm.
using whatever device I feel is gonna work the best. But that's going to help with longevity. Eventually, you're going to be hurt. Something's going to hurt enough that you're going to have to pay attention to it. Well, what if you paid attention to all those things that aren't hurting now and got ahead of the game? So again, stretching, yoga, recovery devices, all of those things help.
How do you know when you found a good academy and a good instructor?
Yeah, that's it's been a subject that I've talked about a lot
Sure
on.
do.
I have a
Yeah.
podcast called the Jiu Jitsu Dummies. We've talked about it a lot. There were a lot of issues over the past couple of years
Mm.
in the world of jiu-jitsu with young girls being assaulted or groomed by coaches, statutory rape charges, things like that. I won't get into the academies, but it's spread through parts of South Florida. Not at my academy, just at different academies in South Florida and in other parts of the country. Um, One of the big signs for a good academy, not just as a guy, but as somebody who might want to bring his wife, his girlfriend, his daughter, his
Mm.
son, his kids, is a good
Hmm.
female presence. When you see a gym that has a good female presence, it's almost like an extra set of eyes. A parent should feel more comfortable bringing their son or daughter to an academy that has female coaches. I'm lucky enough to be myself in a place where it's a husband and wife team, black belts, third degree black belts, And they, again, sometime in the last couple of years post COVID, the girls started to split off. Our gym, we have a relatively large gym where they could split
Hmm.
off into a separate room. Uh, a lot of times that we'll train together, but sometimes the girls will train separately. Um, and that stemmed, I believe, they didn't talk about it and say this is why we're doing it, but that happened during a time where there were a lot of allegations about, what I said previously about coaches grooming young girls. What makes a good academy is feeling comfortable, a coach that walks around and makes sure that the 300-pound guy isn't rolling
Right.
with the 140-pound guy. The coach that says, hey, listen, let's match up. My coach just says it like this. He's like, okay, guys, time to roll. Grab somebody that makes sense. And I like that, right? But, you always have, regardless of saying what I said before, you shouldn't be trying to win practice. Regardless of that, everybody feels happier in the car ride home when
Hmm.
they've won. And what you'll find is like the bigger guys, they find the lower belts, or the smaller guys. Again, I don't really do that. I usually just sit on the mat and I wait for somebody to come to me. Again, at 9 years in, at 230 plus pounds, it's sometimes I feel it's unfair for me to grab somebody that's just going to feel like, at least going in, that I'm just going to kind of lay on top of them. I'm a guard puller because of that, so I'll
Hmm.
pull people on top of me, especially when they're smaller. Boom, pull them down, take them down, pull them into my guard, and then let them work, so that I'm not, again, 230 pounds on top of them. Seeing things like that in your gym should tell you that you're in a good place. But again, good female presence, a coach that doesn't let, kind of uneven matchups when you're training, even when you're just drilling. It shouldn't be. Again, let's say you're
Yeah.
53. You said 220 pounds. You shouldn't be rolling with a white belt, another white belt that's 140 pounds, right? You should probably be working with somebody that's a little bit more experienced
Hmm.
in your weight range, who the coach knows is
Right.
going to help you, not just smash you because you're a white belt. At the end of the day, it's a business for the coach, right? The coach understands that he wants you to come back. Like, if I'm your coach and I heard you say I haven't fell in love with it yet, I'd be all over you. I'd be giving you so much attention in that room, making sure, like, what aren't you loving? How come you don't love
Hmm.
it yet? And how can I help you? But again, some of those things are. I've only been to two gyms in my career. I've been very lucky. I found a gym very close to my home after the first gym that I started in closed after 2 years. I was very lucky to find a gym close to my home with a good staff, like I laid out. Husband wife team, female coaches, huge kids presence, a place for parents to
Hmm.
watch practice. We have like stadium seating, like
Right.
bleacher seating. Parents can stay. There are some jujitsu gyms that say stay on the other side of the door, or there's a wall, or you can't see. Those, to me, sometimes are the red flags.
So my instructor back in New Haven, I'm fortunate. I spend the winters in Tampa, and I'm here now. But
Okay.
he told me a couple of like events that they've gone to, like fighting competitions, where like there's these coaches that are horrible, Milton, that are just they're not there to learn, and it's like you've got to be. He's like, you got to be really careful when you chose a great academy, but and it put like fear in me. So now that I'm away here for the winter, I want to try to find a place, but you really got to feel comfortable there here. I'll be here for about 6 months, and I'll be back up there for six, and
Yeah.
it's real challenging. It's such a wonderful sport. I mean, I've only heard the golfers that I know that do jujitsu, they say it's lowered their handicap. It only helps. I mean,
Okay.
sure you get sore, but the discipline that's involved. So, you know, as a 9-year veteran yourself, it would seem like I would be the perfect person to roll with you. Now, when that happens, because we're similar weight, but you're much more experienced, do you get to learn when that happens when we roll? Because isn't it more about me?
I
How?
learn more. I learn more when I'm rolling with somebody that has less experience, if I'm working on my game and or
Mm.
coaching you a little bit. I talk about this on the podcast a lot. My favorite thing about jiu-jitsu, I love jujitsu. And one of my favorite things is the opportunities I get to work with
Mm.
somebody and coach them. I'm not a coach in my gym, but I might work with somebody, or my coach might say, "Hey, he's new, grab him." Like He's got his little jokes. He'll say, "Don't break them." I'll grab somebody that's brand new and I'll start working. I call it Jiu-Jitsu 101. Start in my guard, show them how to pass, show them how to mount, and then the first submission. So the funny thing is, in those moments when I'm helping somebody, um, I'm remembering some of the technical things that I need to do that I might not be doing because I don't always work on that move. I'm probably past getting caught in somebody's guard. So when I've got to show you how to do something or get out of something, I'm remembering myself. Now I'm going through a move that I might not have really worked on in months, maybe years, and I'm showing it to you. So now I'm remembering. I talk about this part a lot on the podcast, that I feel like at White and Blue, when I helped at my first gym, and I actually coached, I was one of his first students. So at White Belt, I was coaching other White Belts. I was actually opening the gym. I was a grown man, so he trusted me to open the gym. I'd run kids classes. I felt more technical. I was better in my technique, more technical at White and Blue than I am now at Brown, because I was constantly working on those little things. Even when we learned advanced moves and having to teach it to the class, I was better in my own jiu-jitsu. Because I don't coach, it's easy to forget certain things. And I'm not running a basics class or coaching in a basic class with my coach. I go now and it's just for me. Again, I take the opportunity to grab somebody and say, hey, let's work on this. Or let me show. If I get somebody in a move all of the time, even in that role, if I catch them in something a couple of times, I will grab them right at the end of the role and say, hey, I always ask, do you mind if I show you something? Because not everybody likes to get coached by people other than the professor, the black belt. But I'll say, can I show you something? And I will show them how to get out of or to avoid the thing that I was just getting them in. It's only going to help me get better. And again, I do love that part of jiu-jitsu, of teaching somebody. And I think my game gets better when I am teaching somebody again, because now I'm remembering, oh, I don't put my foot there. I'm telling him to put his foot. And I'm like, wow, I don't even put my foot there. I got to remember to do that. So, that's how it works for me.
The most wonderful kind of selfless thing about jiu-jitsu. You could just tell that people, I'll be with somebody and I think the position was like a safety belt. I was behind them. And you could tell that, they're not trying to resist so much. They're trying to give me a little confidence, so they can,
Yeah.
and it's so giving. Now, when your coach said, don't break them, what does that mean? How would you break them?
Well, what he means is don't go hard. Like that's the, like, hey, don't, grab him, don't break him. He'll say that on maybe like one of the younger kids that's coming out of the kids class into the adults class. Maybe they're a little bit bigger. He'll definitely say it. His son anybody's rolling with son, he's like, don't break him. But usually it's a note to the person he's talking to. Hey, this person's relatively new. Don't go hard. Or maybe somebody's hurt. He knows that somebody's got an injury. Hey, Milt, roll with him. Don't break him. He's got an injury. His neck hurts, something like that. But that's all he means. Don't go hard. Now, I can roll hard. I can use my weight to my advantage, my weight, my strength. I usually not. I'm usually, I had a guest say it to me one time, and it was true for me as well. He said, I rolled at one level above the person I'm rolling with. So he's a purple belt. If he's rolling with a white belt, he's going to roll like he's, white to an experienced white to blue belt. If that guy raises, is starting to roll like a purple belt, he's going to raise himself to his purple belt status and roll a little bit hard. So I always want to roll just a little bit above him. And what that means is I'm not going to let this guy just, put me in positions to submit me. I'm going to make him work for stuff, but I'm always going to just work a little bit harder for him so that he doesn't necessarily submit me or get too much of an advantage. That advice actually came from George Pirro. He's a retired special agent, FBI special agent. He's the guy that actually interrogated Saddam Hussein. He's one of our recent episodes. Great guy. We're actually, my marketing company is actually sponsoring him now. So we're doing some work to help him out. But he was the one that laid it out to me that way. And it was great advice. And it was something that I kind of didn't realize I was already doing. But I think that's the best advice when you start to get experiences. There are going to be white belts that are going to walk in the door that you're going to roll with that aren't going to know as much as you. Again, don't break them. Just roll. Just give them a little bit more. Make them work. You also want them as a student. You want your academy and your coach to do well. So you don't want to break people and give them this
Mm.
miserable experience and, put your knee on their face or their neck. And they walk out of there going, this sucks. This isn't what I want to do. I thought I was going to learn how to defend myself. I thought I was going to learn some cool stuff I saw in the UFC. And now they don't want to come back. Right. So even it sounded like you were having a dilemma there of finding a local gym. Imagine you walked into a gym and then, everybody from blue to black
Right.
was just beating up on you.
Right.
You're probably not going to go back. A young kid might go,
Right.
that was awesome. I want to learn how to do that to somebody else. Right. At 40, 50 plus, we're not looking for that. We're looking for the
Mm.
camaraderie, the
Mm.
brotherhood or sisterhood, and we're looking for the training. And you want to be able to get onto the golf course the next morning and not be hurt, not say, oh man, this guy grabbed my foot and tweet, right? We don't want that. So it's kind of like a do unto others kind of situation, but you finding a place that's going to treat you right and go, okay, you're a white belt. Like, let's have you roll with other white belts or roll with this advanced guy who we know he's going to teach you a little bit of how we do things here. That's the place you should
Do
be
you
looking for.
compete, Milton? Do you compete?
I have. I have not. I competed once after my heart attack. I was at purple belt. I had always made a commitment to at least compete at very least once at every belt. I didn't go into jiu-jitsu thinking I was going to compete, but at white belt, I talked to my coach about competing. I think I competed in 3 different tournaments at white. I competed twice at blue, 2 different tournaments at blue. And then I had the heart attack and went back once at purple. But my cardio, it was just different. My heart, the way that my heart would beat, like kind of accelerate so quickly. It took me some time to kind of get that under control. Weight loss being one of those things. But I'm not competing currently. But I've just done and I've done well, and I've done a handful of tournaments. You did mention something before about a coach mentioning something about competing or the
Right.
way that school competes. You shouldn't be forced to compete. I don't know if you are being forced. You shouldn't be forced to compete. You don't have to compete. But again, every school is a little bit different. You might have to compete to get a promotion, to get stripes and or promotion. That's a little bit more of, again, the old school way. Um, again, if you don't want to compete, don't feel bad about it. I talk about it all the time. There are more of us than there are of them. When I say us, I say there are more people that don't compete than that compete. I've got my reasons for, married, business, kids, daughter in college, essentially really running 2 businesses, the podcast. The heart attack was just my okay, I need to find a little bit of a different path. But I was training 3 weeks after the heart attack. So I got right back in there right away. As soon as they told me I could, I was just like right on the mat. Don't feel like you have to. I think everyone should compete a little bit, and you got to get a taste for it. You got to get a taste for getting out there, winning, losing. The whole you don't lose, you learn, right? I'm sure you've heard that. Everybody should get a little taste of that, and it's not easy. Could be stressful, but I think that everybody should do it at least a handful of times to really understand what it's like. Because as you progress in jiu-jitsu, you're going to be around a lot of people that are going to ask if they should compete or are competing, and it's good to have a little bit of knowledge and know those the anxiety that they're going to go to and the nervousness that they're talking about, the making weight. It's kind of good to be able to be part of that little niche of the brotherhood or again,
Yeah,
sisterhood.
because nothing about the actual competition attracts me. I mean, I'm not even an MMA fan because when I watch it, it's
Yeah,
mixed martial arts. I'm only really interested in jujitsu. I mean,
yeah,
I follow a few, Instagram story,
yeah,
TikTok, and I watch the videos, and it's very clever how they get out, and I'm very intrigued by that. But the MMA just doesn't do anything. I'm not saying it's going to change. It may change, but just the actual competition is not what's attracting me. What's attracting me to it is how uncomfortable it makes me and the whole discipline of it. Was it the heart attack
yeah.
that made you go to it? Where were you in the jiu-jitsu life? You were doing it before the heart attack.
Yeah, I was already
That's right.
a purple belt when I had the heart attack. My school doesn't really. He had stopped doing stripes for adults, so I think, a purple belt with 1 stripe, but was
Define stripe.
probably maybe
What's
a
a
2 to
stripe?
3
What's a
stripe.
stripe?
I'm sorry. Stripe is like a degree. right? You usually, right at white belt, if your school does stripes, you're getting a stripe on the black part of your belt, right? You're getting a stripe or a degree for the length of time that you've been training or your level, right? If you're doing really well, you're competing and you're winning, you might get some stripes faster. Depending on the school, some schools will make you be a white belt for 2 years. Some do it for a year. So you figure, every 3 or 4 months, you're getting a stripe. If you go once a week and a guy is going 4 times a week, you're probably going to expect that he's going to move a little faster and get more stripes faster, right? So I was probably I know I was a first degree purple belt, but I was probably, because my school had stopped doing the stripes, I was probably a little bit higher. Had the heart attack, thought I felt better. Excuse me. I think it was probably another 6 months or a year. And I said, I think I could do this. It was a local tournament. I did it. I wound up, because it was a smaller tournament, there weren't a lot of people my age and my size. I had always rolled in that tournament, even when I won, with guys half my age and not half my size, half my age and usually a little bit smaller than me. But strong young men. And I won. I did well. The last time I went with guys that were half my age, and I did not do well. My gas tank wasn't there. I was nervous. I tended to pull guard a little bit more because I didn't want the whole stand-up fight to tire me out. So I'm pulling guard. So I'm pulling these young guys on top of me to then, implement my game. And it just wasn't working. So I decided to just take a break from it until I feel like you really need to dedicate. If you're going to compete, you really need to put some time and effort into it. You've got to, be training. You've got to do competition training, which is harder. And you're also training for points. You have to learn how to, if I'm in a takedown, side control, mount, back, there's, what are the point? You're basically point fighting. You're not necessarily looking for the submission. It's great if it comes, but you're looking to, get a lot of points, get ahead, and then start looking for the submission. So you've got to be doing all those things to really train in competition. When I was a white belt and I told my coach that I wanted to train, or I wanted to do a competition, he says, okay, well, tomorrow training is going to be completely different. And we went into more back to the basics, and we had to learn about the points, because he would teach us some pretty advanced stuff, even for white belts. And it was kind of like a hodgepodge of different moves, and then we'd roll and we had fun. And it was like, if you're going to do a competition, you've got to know, again, takedowns, side control, mount, back, right? Those are like, the 4 or 5 positions that you want to get into to get your points, and then you proceed. We hadn't trained like that before. I knew those moves, but I didn't know how to tie those together in a competition setting. And our training was always different after that. Unfortunately, his school closed, and I moved to my new school. It was less of a competition school, heavy kids program, a lot of females, smaller adults program at that time. Now we have a very large adults program as well. Like, all the parents come and train. They get the parents on the mat. You've got a kid in the class, they're going to get the parent on the mats. So we have we have like family open mats, family days where we do open mats. It's great. But it's a different training, and you shouldn't feel bad or any less of a jiu-jitsu competitor or jiu-jitsu practitioner because you're not doing competitions. You should not feel that. Your journey should not be diminished by it in any way. Certain coaches will push you to get on the mat, and certain coaches will just say, if you want to, let me know, and we'll modify your training a bit. But it should never put you in a place where you think you are any less than anyone else on the mat because you're not competing.
Is jiu-jitsu for everyone?
I think it is. I think there's a little, we say it, I believe it, but I don't ever hear anybody say, but, like the things I said before, but be careful, take care of your body, recovery, massages, ice baths, stretching, yoga. I discovered all those things on my own. And then really, as I got into following jiu-jitsu pages online, I would see it there. I never really honestly heard it from my coaches. Nobody was telling me like, hey, okay, guys, let's sit down and everybody stretch for 10, 15 minutes. I never got it from
Hmm.
inside of the academy. Um, it's for everybody, but you have to know that you really, if you're choosing this path, that you have to take care of your body. Your body is the weapon, is the instrument. You must take care of it. And that means, again, stretching and supplementing with, running, walking, weightlifting. I find weightlifting as a great recovery. I trained last night. I'll do some cardio and some lightweight training, but that lightweight training helps me with, I call them my owies. My lower back hurts. I'm going to do certain things. I'm going to make sure I stretch, and I'm going to do some back exercises and just do things that I know that are going to make those muscles work. And I'm going to feel great when I go train tomorrow. So that's one of the things I do too. I try to put a day between trainings. I didn't last weekend. I trained Saturday and Sunday, 3.5 hours between the two classes, 2 hours on Sunday, hour and a half on Saturday. And Monday morning, I woke up and I was, oh man, what did I do? My back was killing me. So I know that. I put a day of something else or a rest day between my trainings at this age. When I started right before my 41st birthday, 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, open mat on Saturday, where we would train with another school. We'd either go to them or they'd come to us. And my body could take it, and I loved it. And I didn't stretch, and I didn't do my recovery exercises. And I learned, after the first couple of injuries, I learned what I had to do.
Talk to me about the gi, the uniform, to go no gi or gi when training. Because we can take two different options in classes.
Yeah. I would say for guys our age, the gi is probably where you should be. At very least, most gyms have both classes, right? They offer both. If you're older, you probably want to stick with the gi. Not that you shouldn't try no gi or shouldn't train no gi as well, but what you'll find is, because of the control aspects of being able to grab the gi, right? Essentially grab the clothing of your opponent, that lets you either, kind of slow down the pace or just have a little bit more control. With no gi, you're more slippery. We can't grab the rash guard or the shorts or the t-shirt, right? It's against the rules. You're not doing that. Somebody's going to move typically a little bit faster. And, that's kind of typically where people get hurt, when they try to when they're really strong and they try to move very, very quickly. You just find, not that you don't get injured in the gi, but I think that you tend to find more people get injured in the no gi. I train no gi. My school honestly only does no gi once a week. It's our open mat on Saturdays. So I usually go to that one because I want to get my no gi in. But again, as an older guy, I prefer the gi, especially when I'm hurt. I can control the position more because I can grab, from pretty much from the neck, the collar of the neck down to the by the ankle, the pant by the ankle. So I can really control. And for somebody with, the heart attack issue, which my heart still, I can feel it, that it'll start beating faster, quicker than I ever remembered before. It just, I tend to go from 0 to 100 real quick. I like the ability to hold somebody when I need to catch a breath or slow down my breathing. My first coach gave me a little trick when I really, really we're moving a lot and I'm breathing heavy and I'm out of breath, to do some Lamaze breathing, to actually go. Absolutely. I can hold somebody, do a little Lamaze breathing. They almost always go, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I can slow down my heart rate and my breathing by just doing that a couple of times. I do, especially after a roll, I do that. So he gave me that little trick and it's been super helpful. He gave that to me just as a big guy. I was, he was 265. I was at the time like in the 220s. So it was his big guy trick. He knew his cardio wasn't always going to be great. He would do that. So I did get that little trick. But again, holding the gi and being able to control the pace a little bit, especially as you continue to hopefully stick with it and advance. That's a little, you'll learn, oh wow, I can, a little tired here. Let me hold this guy down a little bit. You just don't have those same control points with no gi.
My instructor kind of talks about people will be listening and say, well, a gi really doesn't, symbolize what it would be like if you were in public and something happened, you had to defend yourself. And everybody wears a
Yeah.
jacket sometimes, and you could simulate that. But I could see the importance for both. So on the podcast, talk a lot about discipline, Milton. I lost a lot of weight. I had
Yeah.
the doctor said, if you don't lose this weight, you're gonna not see your daughter graduate. I was building a business. So, I lost a bunch of weight, and people ask me how I did it, and like they want some secret. And I always say discipline. I just focus. I got discipline. I wonder how
Yeah.
discipline plays a role with you, specifically with jujitsu.
Well, it's hard after a long. Again, I own my own business. I run a company called Black Belt Digital Marketing,
Yeah.
and then I also do the podcast one day a week. So just in that, I need to be disciplined to get those things done and to put out a podcast every week. We have sponsors that expect to see an episode or at least 3 to 4 episodes per month. So in my jujitsu, disciplines played into it. What I've just said before, I didn't always do these things that helped me stay on the mat. Putting one day between training is something I used to do, but I wasn't going to work out or going to the gym. And I've learned that that's going to help me. So I've tried to discipline myself in making sure that if I train one day, the next day is going to be stretching. I have mats in the garage. I'm lucky that
Hmm.
my wife let me put mats in the garage. So I have a little setup for myself where I can go out, hit the bag, or I've got the grappling dummy. I can do a little practice, but mostly it's about going out there and stretching, and doing a little bit of training on my own. Sometimes I do like solo drills, little things that are jujitsu movements, but you have to be disciplined in doing that. Jiu-jitsu is such a huge part of my life. I
Yeah.
named my company Black Belt, Black Belt Digital Marketing, because of the tie to jiu-jitsu. The part of the logo, that's the black belt, jiu-jitsu with the red tip. It's again such a huge part of my life. I do the podcast. So I my wife says I half the time that I look like jiu-jitsu threw up on me. I've got the tattoo. I'm always wearing a jiu-jitsu t-shirt. I just love it. I've got to wear the podcast gear and stuff like that. So in order for me to be able to talk about it, I've got to do it. So I have to be disciplined in getting to the gym. But again, I'm just as disciplined in the recovery now. Again, yesterday I stretched and used my a massage gun and different stuff for an hour and a half. I
Wow.
knew that's what it was going to take, and then I went and got in a hot shower and then threw on my gi and went to the gym. So it's very difficult. It's very easy for that little guy on your
Right.
shoulder. Which
Left.
one's the devil,
Left.
right? You got the
Yeah.
devil and the angel. The devil will be like, just stay right here. That movie,
Sir,
let's
eat some
finish that
chocolate.
movie on Netflix. And then you've got the other voice telling you get to the gym, man. I know anytime that I've had to drag my ass to the gym, when I get there and I get through the training, it's almost more satisfying than when I'm like all amped up to go. Sometimes the training session is even better when I didn't want to go. I get through it and I come out the other side going, I learned something new. So I guess we say sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Maybe I was the nail that day, but I wind up coming out of learning something and going, that wasn't so bad. It was an hour, hour and a half, and I get through it. So back to the initial question, discipline. You've got to be disciplined to get there. You have to be disciplined in your recovery. And then again, because it ties into the podcast and the business, I've got to do it. If I want to talk intelligently like this to somebody on the podcast, I've got to be disciplined in my own training to then be able to talk to them intelligently
Hmm.
and not look like a complete idiot. Like, nothing against white belts,
Right.
like if it was my first day and I was a white belt.
Grew up on Long Island, Medford, I believe, where everybody, my cousins are all on the island and Selden, and everybody. One's a cop, one's a fire. Everybody
Yeah.
comes, a cop, just like you. You would thought that's what you were going to do. It looked like it wasn't the career path for you. You got into sales, you got into marketing, brought you down to Florida. I wonder if, did you consider yourself disciplined even back then when you decided not to go into that career path? No.
No, no, I was absolutely. I tell everybody I found jujitsu when
Mm,
I was supposed to find jujitsu. If I would have found jujitsu when I was a young kid, I wouldn't have stuck with it. I was a pretty good athlete growing up, but I quit everything. I should have probably stayed with soccer, but I quit soccer to play
mm,
football because I thought it was cool. I wrestled a little bit. I wasn't starting, so I quit. I played baseball. I wasn't that good, so I quit. I just didn't have the discipline at that age to stick with anything. As I got older, I started, hitting the bag. Always had a punching bag in the house. My dad was a huge boxing fan, so that was always a big part of my relationship with my dad, watching boxing as a kid and as an adult. And I found it when I was supposed to find it at 41. If I would have done it any earlier, I probably would have quit. And I thank God, the universe, whatever you believe in, that it brought me to jiu-jitsu when it did. Because if it would have brought me any earlier, I was single till I was really, I got married 3 years ago. But, I met my wife like 10 years ago. I was still in the clubs when I was 36 years old. So I was just out there having fun, living the Florida single life. And, again, you can't go out on a Friday night out till 3 or 4 in the morning and get up for, what normally on the weekend is going to be a 9 a.m. open mat. Can't do it. I just wouldn't have done it. So I found it when I was supposed to find it. And, again, you definitely wasn't disciplined when I was younger. I wasn't disciplined to become a cop like I thought I wanted to do and follow in my father's footsteps. Again, I thank God. I couldn't imagine becoming a cop, not having the discipline, and then quitting, getting fired. But that happens on Long Island, right? Where back when I was a kid, I came on right when Giuliani became mayor, and it was you had to have 2 years of college. I was a year and a half in, but I quit. I dropped out, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So again, I couldn't imagine being a cop. I wasn't disciplined. I couldn't imagine doing jiu-jitsu. I wasn't disciplined. Owning a business, I wasn't disciplined. It took me a little bit, maybe more than most, or I had to get a little bit older than most, but I didn't really find myself and find my passions until I was really close to 40. My passion being marketing and my passion being jiu-jitsu.
And your approach to jiu-jitsu now at this current age, given what you've gone through, your discipline, is it more of a scientific or art? Is for you, is jiu-jitsu science or art?
For me and the way my mind works, I'd probably say that it's more of an art. But I don't know if you've encountered the craziest thing is when you find out what some of your training partners do for a living. I've rolled with scientists. There's a girl that comes into our gym. She's a PhD. We have one guy that left to California, and I think he went to work for NASA. Accountants, real estate agents, business owners, waiters, waitresses. It's crazy, who you wind up encountering or rolling with. It's an amazing place. I'm sorry, I forgot the initial question, but
Is your
I
approach
kind of went
to
off on a
jiu-jitsu
tangent.
art or science? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was going to say, so in my mind, it's the art. But when I mentioned some of those other people, they look at it completely differently. Some of those minds, like the scientist, the PhD, they look at it like certain people do this. And again, I'm not sure if you've encountered anybody. They'll take notes either while they're training or right when they're done training. So they'll kind of take notes on what they train that day, maybe to go back and train it on their own. Like there are people that handle it like that. And then there are people that like me that just go, I kind of like to practice a lot of the same moves and get really good at them, like my go-tos. But everybody handles it different. I definitely look at it like an art, but the beauty of it is that somebody could look at it as a science and still you guys wind up getting to the same place. So I really just think it's the person, not necessarily the art or the martial art itself.
Milton Campis, what motivates you?
This may not, it may be a little bit of a bad answer, is I like to prove people wrong. I think sometimes even our own family members could look at you and go, what are you doing? When I started jiu-jitsu, my father looked at me and he said, a little late to start this, huh, kid? He still calls me kid. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? I'm like, I found something that I love. So, proving people wrong is fun. And then, it's, I do like helping people, with the marketing company. Like I said before, I love helping people, coach them a little bit. With the marketing company, I love coaching somebody with their business. Somebody will come to me with I call it an idea on a napkin. They don't have a logo, they have an idea. And taking that idea, turning it into a logo, putting it on a business card, building a website, and then helping them get found. I get off on that. I love that path. And, it's similar to jiu-jitsu. You go in there, you don't know this move, and you learn it, you practice it, and you make it better. And again, maybe you're teaching somebody else how to do it. And you get to a place where it's like, wow, here it is. Fly, little birdie, here, now you can go and do what you need to do. So, that's how I look at it. That's how
Bill,
I
and
answer that
that's a
question.
true Long Island answer. I love it, and I could hear it. I could still hear the Long Island in your voice when I was doing research and today. And you could take the people out of the country, but you can't take the country out of them. And plus, there's a lot of New Yorkers in
Yeah.
Florida. But another thing I want to mention, what motivates you, you have
Oh
this
God.
great
Yeah.
foundation. Oh,
We closed the foundation. We closed it. It
yeah.
might be in my bio somewhere still. We did close the foundation. We were doing scholarships we did 2 scholarships for 2 kids. I don't know if you remember the little boy that saved his sister. He got bit in the face, saving his sister from a dog. His name was Bridger Walker. He was our first. We did a second one after that. But we were working with some other foundations, and we were also trying to do stuff for like military veterans, like people that have been injured. We were working with some other larger foundations, and it kind of conflicted with what they were doing. We wanted to support them. Organizations like We Defy and Warriors Next Adventure. We figured we were probably better suited in helping them, these established foundations, and doing it ourselves. So we closed it down. We have still discussed doing some scholarships for kids. So we do occasionally, we talk about it here and there, but the foundation itself was closed, but I think we had it for about 2 years, and I think we did some good and helped
Very
some people
cool.
out.
Well, how do you measure success, Milton?
Wow. Some people might say the bank account, but that's definitely not. I recently had my daughter join the company. She's 29. She's leaving her teaching career to come work for me. How I would gauge success now is really creating something that I could leave behind to her. My intention, and I've made it clear to her, is if you like this, if you like what you're doing, I would love to build this and leave it to you. That would be a great measure of success for me. I'm not in it for the money. I've had a lot of money and I've had no money. I've worked for some great companies and worked for myself and helped build some really good products and businesses. But I still had the same problems that everybody else had when I had a lot of money. That whole like money can't buy happiness. Money may not be able to buy you happiness, but it can buy you things that make you feel happy. But I was happier when I had no money, when I was, the bank accounts, I had to work harder. But I definitely feel like building this business, Black Belt Digital Marketing, into something that I could leave behind is my new goal. If I could build this to a place where, maybe I can draw a retirement income from, or I can continue to do sales, but my daughter runs it, that would be truly, I think, an accomplishment for myself. Not worried about what other people think, but if I could build this business and leave it behind and it lasts beyond my time here on this planet, I think that it's
What
a
a
win.
wonderful answer! Leaving a legacy for your daughter. That's heartwarming,
Mhm.
Milton. So, how can we get in touch with you? Thanks so much for your time, man. I love talking jujitsu. I'm just
Yes,
so new to it. I hope that whoever's listening can feel the passion that you have for it and look into it. At least look
Yeah.
into it, please. Um, you have this great podcast, Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I probably the best way is through the Instagram for the podcast. It's at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies on Instagram. Pretty much everywhere at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies. JIU.
Yeah.
Everybody always spells it wrong. JIU Jitsu Dummies with IES. The dummies is IES. That's probably the best way that people can get in touch with me. My personal Instagram is Uncle Milty BJJ. Everybody's always called me Uncle Milty since I was
Really?
about in the 3rd grade.
Milton
So
Pearl.
made sense to even my friends
Yeah.
still call me Uncle Milty today. It made sense to make that my Instagram handle. So that's my personal. And then you could check out the podcast if you just go to YouTube. It's Jiu Jitsu Dummies. you'll find us. And Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast, because you might find some videos of people rolling with their grappling dummies. But you'll find us. We're out there, and certainly love to hear from people. We give away stuff for, like, if somebody sends questions. So check out our stuff. If you have questions about jiu-jitsu, send it to us. If we use it on the show, if it's a topic on the show, we ask the guest, we'll send you a free t-shirt and a coffee mug. So check us out. And, again, we love
and you've got great
YouTube
away. Too, because you record everything video. And so the YouTube is really cool as well.
Yeah. We, from the beginning, we did, we have the sound on all the podcast apps, and I actually got that advice from somebody else that was doing a podcast. I said, what would you do differently if you had to start over? He was only doing the sound, and he said, I would have done the video from the beginning. So we always did both right from the beginning. And I think that was part of our success and our appeal early on. People kind of want to see, who's the heck is this guy behind the mic? And then again, we were giving stuff away before we even started the podcast. I was giving away logoed t-shirts and mugs. My wife was saying, what are you doing? You haven't even recorded yet. I said, it's the trailer to the movie. It's the buildup. We got to get people excited. So we were giving stuff away from the beginning. We even had sponsors that were giving stuff away before we recorded, and it led to a huge amount of success. What do people love more than free? Right. So it worked out for us.
Milton Campis, thank you so much for your time. I hope one day we get to, roll together a little bit. That would be great.
Yeah, you're down here. You're down here in Tampa, you said, for 6 months out of the year? I'm a little further down. If you ever come down to South Florida, come to an open mat. It's nice. We won't break you.
I really do appreciate that. Milton, thank you so much for your time. You be well. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.